In this video, we are going to have a first look at the Cadwork 3D interface and how to navigate in it, use a mouse on existing elements, and do basic transformation to your elements, such as rotation and translation. In that folder, I would like to create my 3D. So to create a Cadwork file, just right-click on the location where you want to create that file and go New, and select simply Cadwork 3D. This will open what we call the Cadwork Start. This is where all the files can be created from, and you can switch to whatever module you need. Basically, in these videos, we will be using mostly 3D and 2D. But here we are going to start with Cadwork 3D. So here in that list, you will have one or several files available. That's what we call init, and that are basically templates to start your model from. So here we will be using the basic one from V28 and simply set the name of the 3D model. In that case will be the name of our exercise, knowing Tetris. And OK. So this is Cadwork splash screen that indicates you the version you are using and the build used. This window will automatically be opened when you first create a 3D file, and here you will be able to set all the information about your 3D or your project. Naming the project and giving specific numbers, or give any additional information about the architect, the customer, the designer, etc. But this is something that we'll be looking at in other videos. And here we go. So this is Cadwork 3D interface. In the middle, of course, you have the drawing area with its axis system. So with Y, X, and Z. That you will also find here at the bottom left corner. So this is a fixed point at the specific location. This is the origin of your model, and this one is simply a reference that is always available at the bottom of your screen. Then about the interface itself, on the left side here is every function that changes the way you are looking at the model. So from the orientation of the views to the graphic representation to then what elements are being displayed, etc., etc. And here on the right side is basically the toolbox. So this is where you will find all the tools available to create new elements, change elements, modify them, cut them, basically transform what already exists, and also run your exports towards the 2D. So without further ado, let's start with this exercise. So as I said, we are going to use like a Tetris, but we won't draw all the elements at first. So you will find the Tetris elements in your catalog. So to access your catalog, simply go to Add, Catalog, and here make sure to select the Cadwork catalog, so the middle tab, and you should find here several folders, and one of them is named Training, and in here you will have the Tetris file. Simply left click and it will be added in your drawing area, but currently you see it's not added at specific location, it's anchored to your cursor, so you can select where you want to place it. So here you see, as soon as you are in a function in Cadwork, it's important to always refer to the bottom of the screen. This indicates all the next step, and especially what button should be used for your next step. So in that case will be the left button of the mouse to place this catalog element onto a point. So the points that are available can be, for example, here the origin, or any points to available, so the end of lines, etc., etc. You won't be able to paste it directly in the void since you are in 3D, so there is a third dimension perpendicular to the screen, so you need to select an existing point. When you add a catalog element, you can add them in sequence, so when you're done, simply use the right click to return, and then you will need to do several right click to quit totally the menus. When you add a catalog element, you see my elements are all pink. This means that they are selected. As you can see here at the bottom, this is the information about selected elements. And if I want to unselect them, the only thing I need to do is simply left click in the void. Talking about selecting elements, when you select an element, you start with a left click, and left click always start a new selection or unselect everything. So if you want to add to your selection, you will need to use the right click. So like this, you can simply add new elements. And here, middle click to unselect elements. So left click to start a selection, right click to add to your selection, and middle click to remove from your selection. On the left side of the screen, you have some views related functions. For example, X, so this will orient your drawing perpendicular to the X axis, Y, Z, and go back to the main axonometry with A. So here you can see that it's automatically zoom on every visible elements. So this means that if you zoom in with your mouse wheel, and then orient a view, you always go back to a zoom where all visible elements can fit your screen. Below there is a white cube with turning arrows, so this just allows you to enter the dynamic rotation. So simply left click and then move your mouse around, and this will rotate your model. So this rotates centered on all elements, and you can zoom in and continue your rotation. And if you want to switch from dynamic rotation to the pan or the translation, if you look at the bottom left of your screen, it's simply a left click, and now I can pan around my model. Left click again to switch, and you'll go back to the rotation. When you have the view you want to keep, simply right click to quit that rotation. This rotation, you don't need to use that button because this is something that you will do a lot while working in Cadwork 3D. So the best option would be to directly use the shortcut for this. So Control left click. So simply hold Control and then press left click, and then you can release Control, and just while holding the left mouse button, you can just move your mouse around and rotate around your model. The only difference with this is the zoom is not available as it was with the function. Here you can just stop the rotation simply by releasing your left click. The same goes for the pan, so it's simply, instead of Control, it's Alt with the left click, and then you release Alt, and then here you can just pan around. So this is how you navigate through your model and look things around. So always recall that when you zoom in, you point with you are aiming for the your cursor location. So now we will start moving some elements around to recreate the shape. So the first thing that we are going to do is, as you can see, some elements are not correctly oriented. Like some needs a rotation around X to be placed like these ones, and this one needs to be rotated around Y to be placed flat. So here what we are going to do is simply select our three elements that needs the same rotation, and for this we are going to use directly the shortcut because it's something that is really easy to do, and it's using the shortcut for this is great, especially at first, because it's really visual. So here simply select 5 to move, and here directly press G to glide. And here you see that you see the image of your selected elements on your cursor. So first, it's easier to see exactly where they will be placed based on where you select. As you can see, the cursor location is the same as the active point. The active point is placed where I first select my elements. So this is something we will look a bit further afterwards. And here as we said earlier, we need to rotate these elements around the x-axis. So simply use the shortcut W. This will automatically rotate 90 degrees, and we need only one rotation, and we will simply left click at the bottom of this element here to place our elements. For this one, it will be exactly the same thing. So 5 to rotate, G to glide, and here I won't be able to use the WER rotation because these ones are 90 degrees rotation. So I cannot really place this element horizontally using that. So I will be using the Q rotation. So Q, here the next step is to select the rotation axis. So in our case, it's the blue one, so Y. And now that I have my rotation axis, I just need to type in the value. So here it's 45 degrees, enter. And I just need now to place my element using an available point. Let's say, for example, that one. Okay, so now that all our elements are currently oriented, we are going to try to reproduce our element. We've seen that we could move the elements around in order to rotate them, to place them correctly, in order to be in the same plane or in the same alignment that we should have to place them in the Tetris area. So this is what we need to create. I will just start the exercise and then you will have all the tools to continue by yourself. So just to remind you, when you select an element with your left click, always try to select it. So to activate a point that will be useful for the future location where you want to move or copy your element. So in that case, I want to place first this L-shape cyan element, so this one, from the bottom left corner, and I will just copy it with 6 right at that location. I could directly place the second one, but using that point, for example, so this one here. So 6 to copy. If I want to have a preview of my copy and have a better understanding of the rotation I will be doing, I can press G. The G, now that my element is snapped on my cursor, it will be easier now to see what rotation I'm going to do and actually to see the result in real time. So here I how to create a rotation around Y. So the rotation around Y, if I look at the bottom prompt command, it will be E. So E once and twice to have a 180 degrees. And we'll just continue this in order to create the shape. So you see this one might be a little tricky because we need to actually turn it in the other direction. So for example 6G, it will always be the same start, and the only thing that will change for one piece to another is just the rotation that you need to do. So that's a good exercise to train your vision in 3D. So this will be a rotation around X. So always refer to the origin here, or if you are close to the main origin of the model, you can look at the axis here. Maybe just recall that X is the red one, blue is Y, and Z is the green one. So here I will rotate around X with W, so I just need to press twice on W, and you see I always make sure to select a point that is available for when I will paste my element. This one doesn't need to be turned, I can then select this one, J, E, that I'm going to do. Yeah, okay. So it will be here the same orientation. So you see here that might be, for example, here we have already the right orientation to place this one, but this one here doesn't have any real points that I could use. So here there is several things that we could do. We could still be able to place it at the right location, because if I just take this one and place it, for example, at the wrong location here, I see that there is I need to just a translation that is equal to the 1 cube. So here I can just do 5 to move, and then orient the translation along X, and then select a point that will lead my translation at the right location. So basically, I need to select a point that is on this line. So I can select, for example, the top of this T-piece. And here we go. And now I can, of course, continue. It might have been easier if I place this one first, but it's just for you to have all the different examples if you want to try different things. So here you could try to create like as a regular Tetris. So from bottom, of course, to the top instead of what I did here, might be a bit more interesting. But yeah, I think that you understand the concept. This will be pretty, yeah, the same thing over and over again. But again, that is, I think, a good exercise.